What's going on? It's Kevin Kenny. This is the Build series live from New York City. Gonna go out on a limb right now and say that our guest today has more Grammys than you and me combined. 14 to be exact. He has spent 17 straight weeks atop the Billboard Hot Gospel Songs chart. And actually today, a brand new album for you to enjoy, Long Live Love. Please, let's give it up for Kirk Franklin. Live on Build.
What's going on, sir?
You ever been here before?
No, this is mad, super dope. This is
very
great.
Cool.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, you brought the warm, beautiful weather to New York City. So
I have a cup. Can I like take the cup?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well,
Thank
it's a
you.
souvenir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I
absolutely.
take the cup?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
I'm gonna take a sip from the cup. So
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. Thank y'all for me. Hey, everybody, how y'all doing?
How's today feel for you? This is finally out in the world.
Yeah, you know, it feels, you know, it's always, after all these years, it never stops being scary.
Yeah.
You know, never stop being nervous. And, you know, I mean, you always, you know, deal with wanting to make sure people like it, and you worry if people like it, and you go through all of the, you know, just the roller coaster rise of emotion. And so, yeah, still the same. Like, it's my first album.
Right.
It's my first album. Every album is my very, very first record.
I love the fit on the cover here. This
Thank
look
you, man.
is awesome. And the video we just played for those in attendance here is also great.
Thank you,
You're
bro.
so open in interviews. I've heard you talk about a number of things. I don't know if I've ever heard you talk about the importance of imagery with your music or visuals. Is that something you're very passionate about, how you visually present the music?
Yeah. Thank you for even bringing that up, because I've never really been asked. And I try to, you know, just you want to stay within the fabric of what people see and do and think, but not to be too intrusive in that process. So I'm always trying to make sure that it fits within the fabric of, like, for example, like even mixing a song, is I want a song to sound sonically that if you go from a Bruno Mars song to a Kirk Franklin song, that it doesn't sound like you just stepped into an AM radio station. And so if you are looking at a music video, I want to make sure that everything about it at least tries to fit the same type of visuals that what happened if you're looking at any other format.
Yeah. Let's take it back for just a quick second here with your journey, and you've been so open about it. I heard you say recently on social media that you didn't have much hope as a young person, and music became that sort of vehicle for hope. And I'm just curious, you know, of course, we all fall in love with music, or maybe not everybody, but a lot of us fall in love with music as a kid. When for you did it become this vehicle or a means to improve your life, to better your life, to better your well-being?
Yo, man, great question. What happened was when I was younger, I had a friend get killed, and he was the good kid. Like, we were the ones wilding out, you know. Like, I was the kid trying to fight against the church boy image, trying to be everything, but what I knew in my heart was supposed to be the right thing, because being a church kid back in the day wasn't fresh, you know what I'm saying? You know, you had no sauce, you couldn't flex, you wasn't, you know, like there was really nothing that was really dope about being a church kid. And so I fought against that, and I got into a lot of trouble. And then I had a friend named Eric who was the good kid, and he woke up one Monday morning looking in his father's closet to try to get a VHS tape. And when he opened up the door, his father's gun fell from the top of the closet and killed him. And so that, for me, was a major trajectory change in my life. And so I started to really connect my faith with music. And so it became very, very much of my DNA from then on.
Were they two separate things up to that point, faith and music for you?
I think a lot of times in the African-American experience, a lot of times Christianity can also be part of the culture. So you never really get a chance to dig into the personal relationship. It's almost like arranged marriages. Right? You know, for some cultures that's just automatic, where a lot of people that are maybe a lot of people in the Caucasian race, if they come to faith, it's a little bit different of a journey, because most black folk were raised going to church. They were going to church with their grandmama, because it's so much part of our fabric as people of color. And so sometimes you have these moments where they're like these eye-opening moments where it becomes personal for you. And so for me, that was that moment when Eric was killed.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to talk about another moment that was, I know, big for you.
Okay.
I don't know how young you were, but I imagine you got to be pretty young when this happens. And you're at home and you overhear this conversation that your biological mother is having with the woman who adopted you.
Yes.
And just some things are said, and it cuts pretty deep. And you go outside, and I believe this is the first time you ever have a conversation with God. Is that right?
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty good. You've kind of been checking me out. It's I think that one thing that is also different in communities that are minority is that there are things that happen in those communities that other races don't always get a chance to experience. For example, in the black community, there are so many kids that were raised by their grandparents, but they still knew their mama. But the mama was like a big sister or like an aunt who would come by and maybe drop off gifts and clothes. But the grandmama raised the kid,
Right.
and so, but in different other communities, if a child is adopted, most of the time they don't know their biological parents. So even though when they come to the revelation that they were adopted, it hurts. But then the love of this new mom and dad that raised them kind of seems to supersede that hurt. Well, if you live in an African American community where or a socioeconomic community where that type of narrative is just the norm, a lot of times you are a child that never gets to heal, because if you are given away to your grandmother or given away to a distant aunt, and then every now and then you still see that biological parent, it's a wound that never heals. Because every time they come and leave, you're always wondering, well, why am I not good enough to go with you?
Right. You're something they don't want.
Yes, and you're reminded of it every time they come and go.
Right.
And so maybe they stop by maybe once or twice, 3 times a year. But even when they do, there's a hope that you're trying to figure out, well, why can't I go with you? Like, I have a sister. We have the same mom but different dads. And once a year, the lady, because I was legally adopted. And so the lady that adopted me knew my mother. And I knew my mother when my biological grandmother died. She helped my biological mother a little bit, and so they knew each other. And so I have a sister, and once my biological mother told us that she was going to come pick us up, and so we stood on the corner of the house all day with our bags, waiting for her to come get us until it was night. Like, true story, until day turned to night, bro. And she never showed up to get us. And we stood on that corner. And so those type of situations, they just reinforce that you're not wanted. You're not wanted. You're not accepted. You're not, like, because the people that are supposed to want you don't.
Right. When did you, and it doesn't have to be a person, but was there something that came along in your life eventually between then and now where you did feel like you were theirs? Because that must have been a big moment, right? Your whole young life, you feel like nobody wants you, or the most important people, I should say, in your life don't want you. What's the first time in your life you go, oh, this thing, whether, I don't know if it's music, but this person, this community, they want me. Is that the church?
Yeah. Well, what it was for me was my wife. She has been, in a sense, the church. Yeah, but because remember, the church is not a building. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be, what beats in your heart, for something and someone bigger. You dig? And so, but I can even be candid with you even now that even as a grown man, I still have to fight hard to remember that I'm unconditionally loved, even by my wife. And she's patient with me about it, and she understands. But it takes work for me to tap into an unconditional love. Like, I have a mentor that told me early on that it's hard to know God's love as a father when you've never had one. And so when you live with those realities, God then becomes religion. And religion is a very oppressive thing. It's a very ugly thing. It's a thing that controls people and it suppresses people. And it's just a bunch of rules to try to dictate the human actions of an individual. That's why I am so anti-religion. And so it is very important for people to know that this God that I want to promote is this big, loving God with these arms that are always open for you, and your life can never stink enough or your breath can never stink enough for God to not be available to love you where you are and to love you so much to love you to where he wants you to be and knows that you are bigger and greater than the hell that you come from.
Right. Oh, going back just a little bit to that first moment when you start to talk to God for the first time. And I don't mean to make it sound like Bill that the idea of God is for everybody, but let's say I think a lot of people maybe.
But you're talking to me though. It's all good.
No, of course. But what I'm trying to get at is I think even just approaching the idea of beginning a conversation with God or the universe, whatever word you want to assign there. Is a tall task. They don't know how to approach it. How do you, as a child, how do you start that? Like literally, do you have a memory of like what was the first thing you said to God?
Yeah. No. Great question. I remember being a little boy. And we had like a little ghetto hood house, right? Gertrude and I would climb on top of the roof of that house.
Right.
And I remember always looking at the stars and just developing a conversation.
So, but what do you say? I'm just so curious. You as a kid, what do you say for like? Is it hello? I mean, I don't mean it's funny, but
sure. Hi, hello. That it is so unfortunate that God for many people never moves past an idea to an individual because of the negative images and experiences that we and the forefathers before us have presented. So it's not even something a lot of people even want to have. They don't even want to just say hello because it is so oppressive and it is so divisive. And whether it's from the Crusades on, to the wars that have happened in the name of religion and that continue to oppress people, whether it's putting your views on a woman and what she should do with her body or not, those wars just continue, to make LGBTQ people feel like that the Bible was written, just as a manual to hate them. It's just horrible that these narratives continue. And who would want to talk to anybody that hates you? What little baby would run to the door when the daddy comes home if the dad is always mean to her?
Yeah.
Right? But if you're a loving father and when you come home from work, that baby is going to break her neck trying to get to her daddy. And my job on earth, the reason why I'm alive, is as much as I can is to erase all of these oppressive images that we've painted. And Martin Luther's tried to do it back, with the Reformation, trying to get us to no, you don't have to go to man to get to God. You can go yourself. You can chop it up with him yourself. You can say hello. You can say God, Pops, Dad. When I'm talking to him, I say Pops, Father, and I would not insult you or the people that are in this audience or people watching if I did not believe that this is a truth that I have experienced in my own life. First of all, I believe that there is a historical truth behind it, that there's enough evidence to prove that there is, while at the same time, I've seen it in my own personal life. There's no way that I would ever tell anything about anybody if I didn't believe in a sin experience myself, because I'm too much of a doubter.
Yeah.
I am, in my nature, I doubt and question everything. And so because of that, I have just seen the power of God in my own life and transform my life. Yeah. And so there's no way, like me even being here with you, this is grace. Like this is God's love. And to have the honor to be here with you, to have the honor to be in front of these incredible people, it's just an act of grace for me.
Yeah. And music, of course, it's very intertwined with everything we're talking about.
That is the tool that I get to do it in, yeah.
I love this story that I heard you, I think you told Sway this story, that you used to take songs off the radio.
Yeah.
And you'd almost flip them, like a producer would flip them for an sample, but you would flip them in church. You'd work in melodies of popular songs.
I would flip them for Jesus.
Yeah, there you go. Can you? I mean,
yeah. No. But yeah,
some examples?
I remember being 7 years old, and there was an Elton John song that was really dope back in the 70s, and I remember laying in my bed one night because, and it sounded like a movie, but we used to sleep with the windows open. Because in the hood, the windows had screens. And so you could lift the windows because those houses did not have central AC. It was just whatever was blowing in was what you got. You know what I'm saying? If it was hot air, you'd been to bed sweating, but that was your air. And so there was a church that was across the tracks from our house. And sometimes they would have late night musicals. Yeah. And you could hear the music. I know it sounded like the Color Purple movie or something, but you could hear the music from that church. It was a church called Corinth Baptist Church. And I just remember one night thinking, man, I can't wait till I get old enough to go to that church. And I remember saying that I would do, he's coming back. I know he's coming back. I know that Jesus is coming back. Dun, 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 dun. He said that he is coming back. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. And I didn't do nothing with it. I just, that's what I would do is I would take old joints and do them for Jesus.
Yeah, that's so cool. Something I wanted to ask you about is
sir.
You've talked about in the past, of course, you appear on Kanye West's Life of Pablo album.
Yeah.
Now, that's 2016, and you can really hear the influences of your music on, I think, a lot of that project, right? But what's fascinating to me is that Kanye calls you in 2013 originally.
Yes.
Around then. Now, Kanye West is making incredibly different style of music than you do in 2013. He's making Yeezus. It's almost
Watch the Throne.
Yeah, Watch the Throne. It's almost if you want to call it punk rock, hip hop, right? It's abrasive sounds. But he calls you just out of the blue, as I understand it. Why do you think he called you? Did he ever tell you why he called you?
Well, yes, he called me because he really wanted to help the production level of gospel music. He really felt that there's a lot of talent in gospel music that just needs a certain boost in the production, beats and sounds and sonics. And some of that is true. But what I didn't want to do was to put him in a position that now he would feel the pressure of, okay, well, what does this mean? Do you need to start now doing God? It's like we have to let people be on their journey. Mm-hmm. We have to let people be able to walk our life at a speed that is not ours, but it's the one that God put them on, because God doesn't rock a watch. You dig? And so he's not trying to he's not hurrying up trying to make you better because he's running out of time. You dig? And so I felt like that what would be really good for Kanye and I is just to build a friendship, just to build a brotherhood. And we started to do that, just started to kind of talk a little bit and kind of walk our life. When I would go to L.A., we'd go over to the crib, jump on the piano, chop it up, or, when he would be in town, we'd try to get together. And then when it was time for Pablo, he was working on a song, and the song originally was my song. It was one of my old songs, and I thought that maybe this would be a good moment to maybe try to go a little bit further. But it always started with a conversation. So his first idea was to want to help gospel music.
So he came to you to produce potentially your music.
Well, he didn't know what it was.
Right.
He just felt a passion to want to do something with this genre of music. And I think that people have to understand that in the African American community, the black church and its music is very synonymous. And so black people were raised in church. Gospel music has been part of everybody's history. I mean, for years, Pharrell would see me like, man, we got to do something together, man, because I was raised in church. Mm-hmm. And he would name all these gospel songs that, like when you look at R&B, black music was birthed out of the black church, That's why Elvis would stop by. That's why the Rolling Stones were in the back of the church when Aretha did her album. That's why every major pop artist, even to this day, if you look at their band, the whole band is church guys.
Yeah.
Every pop artist, their whole band and background singers are church people.
Yeah.
Because that's how all the church people show up at the concerts, because all the band is getting them free tickets. and showing them love, because that's where the sauce comes from. The sauce comes from the black church, and that sound and that creativity comes from there. And Kanye knew that. Pharrell knows that. Chance knows that. Yeah. And so that's where our friendships were built.
Do you and Kanye ever eventually start talking just about life, or is it strictly music?
No. It's more life than music.
What do you guys talk about?
Life.
But what about life?
As much life as I'll share here.
Okay.
But
there
life.
You go. Yeah, life.
Just because I think a good friend has to be able to
confide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So life.
I totally get that.
Life.
I totally get that. And then you were talking to Ebro in New York. Yeah. And you were talking to him about Kanye, and I think it's easy now to a lot of people not turn their back on Kanye, but maybe they don't agree with everything he says, right? And that's understandable.
Understandable.
And you said to Ebro, you said that because you were sort of felt thrown away as a child, that you will never throw anybody away.
Never.
I have a question, though. Do you ever find that you now open yourself up to more toxic people at times? Because what I mean is, there must be a time with certain people in your life, you need to cut them off, right? But if you never throw them away, what is the right time? I was just curious to ask.
Very, very good question. And I believe there's a difference between cutting off and throwing away.
Okay.
That there's a difference. I think that when you cut people off, you begin to, for example, like you can have a child who has your last name, but let's say that they get strung out on drugs and now they're stealing from you, or now they're becoming disrespectful, and he's like, you know what, you can't come to the house anymore. Well, you can take that away from them, but what you never take away from them is their last name.
Right.
They will always be a Johnson or a Jackson or a Smith. And so that name and the fact that they still keep that name, there's always the hope that there will be a turnaround. But until the hope is there are parameters. There's a system that it has to run. And so you can still set up the system of, I disagree with what you're doing, but I'm going to always leave the crack in the door so that when you choose to turn your heart, or God turns your heart, or just whatever the case may be, love. And I believe that that's what love does. Love leaves a crack in the door.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Sorry, I'm thinking about that. You're doing have you done this already, or are you doing it right now? These listening events at churches.
I'm in the middle of
You're
them
in
right
the
now.
middle of them.
I'm in the middle of it.
This
right
is
now.
really cool. You want to talk about this really quick?
Yeah. So what I'm doing is, because my core audience is still the church, and I love where I come from. As fragmented as it may be, as fractured as it may be, it's a hospital. It's a hospital full of sick people. If you go to a hospital and it's clean but nobody's sick in there, it's going to close.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But a hospital is also going to be messy. There's going to be blood on the floor at times. You know what I'm saying? It's going to get kind of jacked up. And I think that it's very important for those that are the doctors in the church to let people know this ain't a perfect place. I'm not a perfect person. And I think that's why we're having so much trouble with people and their hope and their faith, because the doctors don't let you know and realize I'm a patient as well. See, the doctors are patients too, but if nobody acts like they're patients and sick too, then it makes the other patients think, well, I'm going to go to them because they're perfect and they're right. And it's like, you know what? If you see me doing something crazy, don't follow me when I'm tripping. Don't just because I wear one of the robes and got the thing around my neck, that doesn't mean that I'm automatically the guy. And then if I am in all that stuff I got on, my job is to serve. And if I'm abusing and hurting people and taking control of people's lives because of that position, then I'm not doing God's work. And so people also have to hold people accountable, but it does not mean that you throw away God. And the last thing I say about that as an African American is that we've seen a lot of bad police, and there have been a lot of things happen in the relationships with police and urban communities. But we still stop at red lights, and we still stop at stop signs, because even though there are bad police, does not mean that we throw the whole system away. And I think a lot of times when you see these bad things happen in the name of religion, we also throw God away as well. And it doesn't mean that you get rid of God just because a couple of fools are acting fools. It does not mean that the love of God is still not available, or the access or the reality of it is. And so my job, again, is to say, yeah, let's get rid of the fools, right, but don't throw your heart away from God. And so what I'm doing is I'm going back to the places I've come from, because I was raised in the church. I love the church. So I'm going back into the hoods, the churches, the communities. I'm playing music. I'm kissing babies on their forehead with these big old southern lips of mine. I'm hugging people, getting my cologne on them. And I wear good cologne. Where's my camera? I wear good cologne. So if you hug me, I'm not going to leave you stinky. I try to wear, And I'm just loving on the people and telling them how much I appreciate them for rocking with me for 26 years. That's a long time.
Yeah. Round of applause for 26 years. It's not easy to do. We're going to go to Twitter. One of your fans just wrote in. Can you talk about the process of making Winter's Promise?
Wow. Winter is a young lady in her mid-30s, married with 4 kids. One morning, her husband got up to go jogging. They had just finished packing up their house. They were on their way to Nashville. He was going to start a new job. And when he came in from jogging, talked to his wife, she was sitting beside the bed. He went in to take a shower. He came from out of the bathroom. His wife is laying on the bed dying. Suddenly. And in an hour, she's gone. No no health issues in the past, nothing. I mean, there's no medical history of anything. She's gone, and now he is a widow with 4 little girls. And it shook my faith. And so the song is just basically talking about how we talk about heaven, but there are sometimes doubts if heaven is really real. And you worry, is this really, really, really real? And so that's what this song is talking about. It's like, please let what I believe in be real, because there's so many tragedies on earth that you want to believe that there's something bigger than what we see right now. Yeah. And so that's Winter's promise.
It's incredible. We're going to get to the first of a couple questions from our studio audience right here. The first will come from right up front.
Hey, cute dress.
Thank you.
I mean, top, yeah. So.
I just have to do this. It's your boy. It's your uncle.
Oh, that's me.
That's
me.
I'm so used to you saying that.
Sunday Best is coming back, too,
I'm
on
excited.
BET. Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I just want to say that I've been rocking with you since Stomp, Silver, and Gold. Wow. Had to sing a lot of these songs over and over and over again in church, and I used to get mad about it. But then I started listening to the lyrics, and I realized something, that after all this time, that God has blessed you with an anointing gift to be able to write songs that not only inspire and encourage people, but that lift us out of some of the deepest, darkest places to places of conviction, to get us in line with God, to be restored.
Thank you.
And so I'm really thankful for that. And I want to ask you, as an artist, when you are experiencing your moments of brokenness, what do you lean to beyond writing songs, beyond your wife, beyond God? What other things do you draw inspiration
from? Great question. Yeah, well, first of all, I'm very humbled that you would rock with me that long.
Yes.
Since I had my S-curl back in the day,
Yes.
you know. Is that I really try to surround myself with people of a strong faith that are also humble to admit when they're wrong and make mistakes. And I really, really, really fell in love with the message that I believe in. And so it's very real to me. Like when I'm, like I rock with Jesus for real, not perfect. And there are things I don't understand. I get confused about tragedies in life when innocent people suffer and wars and just the chaos and just the division just in culture within the world right now. And I have a lot of questions and I have my own doubts, but I don't take, it's like tragedy can make people either better or bitter. And some people get bitter and they just walk away. But the tragedies that I see in the world and even had in my life, it has caused me to want to run to and not away. And so that's how I deal with it.
Awesome. That's a great question. We have time for one final one. It'll come from behind me.
Hi.
Hey.
This is a question from BuiltSeries.com. Someone's asking, who's a current artist right now that you listen to or that inspires you?
Wow. I'm going to be very honest with you. I've been so busy working on this record, I haven't listened to any other music. And so maybe if they can catch me in another minute or, a few months, I can tell them. But if they're looking for some other artists too, encourage them to, to put them on the same kind of wave. There's Jonathan McReynolds, there's Travis Green, there's Tasha Cobbs, there's Anthony Brown, there's Lecrae, there's there's just so many out there. Mary, there's so many artists out there. They can kind of put them on the same wave that are like really, really, really dope. Thank you.
Kirk, we're out of time, unfortunately, man. I could do
thank
this
you
all
for this
afternoon.
opportunity.
I don't know about you.
I'm very humbled by this. Thank you.
This is great. Again, your record is out and available everywhere. Now, where can we keep up to date with you online? Is it just at Kirk Franklin?
Yeah, or you can just come over to the house. You want to?
There you go. That's an invite. You heard it here first. Thanks for watching. Bill, one more time for Kirk Franklin, everybody.